Okay, so a few people have asked how to achieve the chenille look in embroidery, specifically on the Melco Amaya. This will only pertain to Melco Amayas, although anybody else watching this may get some tricks or hints that they may be able to use in their own software, in their own hardware, but this is specifically for a Melco Amaya setup. I am currently running Design Shop Pro, and I will try my best to explain how it is that I set this up for the chenille. This will be for as I use a poly neon 40 weight thread. Um, there, the actual thread that you should be using is more of a Bermalina, I believe is what it's called. It's more of a almost a woolly, not quite a yarn, but it's much thicker than a standard thread. And you would use typically a 116 needle for something of that particular nature. But that being said, I will try to go through and explain this the best that I can. Giving the example that I have here, I have loaded up a letter A that I have created. You will see that there are two different colors. The first color is the background, and the second color is basically just the satin outline finish that I threw on there. Now, you'll notice that the first one is a satin stitch. Well, you need to change this to a fill stitch first. That's the first and foremost. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to duplicate the actual area that you want to become a chenille. So basically you have two of the same exact backgrounds in this particular instance. Now what you need to do is, and I've already got presets, but I'll go over them in a second, is you need to go to its properties and under top stitching, because this is technically a letter, top stitching. Now I have here two different types of chenille. One is a main and one is an underlay, and this is why you want to duplicate it, because you need both of these. One is actually going to give you that underlay first appearance, and then the main fill will come in and fill it in and give it the more fullness effect that you're looking for. So if I choose for my color, the first of the backgrounds, I'm going to select my preset of chenille underlay. And what you see right there happens is the density is 16. Now I've altered these a bit so you get a bit more bushier, but a much more fuller effect with the poly neon. If you were using thicker threads, you would probably want to increase that to an 18 or a 20, depending on the thickness of your thread. You can play with this as you see fit, but this seems to work fairly decently. But you start off with a density of 16, and in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this for the moment just so you can see. A density of 16, okay, using a standard fill with a stitch length of 20 and a stitch angle of 90. And then under advanced you want to change your maximum stitch length to 10. Now what you can do at this point is you can actually click save, and then you could name it, whatever you really wanted. You could name it as chenille underlay. And as you can see, I already have the chenille underlay and wants to overwrite it, but if you were to save it, then you could reuse it over again. This is the first one that you need to do. So again, a fill with a density of 16, a stitch length of 20, a stitch angle of 90, and under advanced a minimum stitch length of 10. Now, the second one is going to be almost identical. This will be your main fill. But you notice that now my density is a little bit thick, it's a little heavier. Instead of a 16, it's now a 12. The stitch length has been changed to 22, and the stitch angle has been changed to 46. And just as before, your minimum stitch length will be a 10. Now what I like to do, and which gives me the best results, are if you take a look down here, you'll see that I have my starting and my exiting points the same place. So normally, one would be over here and one would be over there, but I like to make my starting and my entry points the same. And you'll see that both of these are about pretty much the same. The starting and entry point is always the same. It starts there, comes around, and then finishes in the same point that you started from. That's the basics right there. Now, from here, there's a couple of different things that you can do. You can either right-click on Design and go to Project, and then go into Amaya. This is where most of the magic will happen. What you want to do is you want to go through and actually select settings by color. So what this is going to do for you is it's going to allow you to change the Amaya settings per color. So in this instance we have color number 1, which I have settings by color activated, and you'll notice that it went back to default. You want to change your material thickness to anywhere between 35 and 40. I would probably stick around 35. I wouldn't again, depending on your application, depending on what you want, the type of look that you're going through, I would start off at 35. Slow your sewing speed down. I would probably start at somewhere around 700. That's just what seems to give me the best results. You want to set your active feed to standard. Don't leave it on auto. And down here, what you're going to do is, and this again has given me the best results, is disable your thread and bobbin detection. Please bear in mind that once you do this, you must maintain a vigilant eyesight on the machine. If this breaks a thread, if the bobbin runs out, or if something else happens, the machine won't care and will continue on. So just keep an eye on it. But this will prevent the machine, hopefully, from stopping every couple of seconds because it thinks that the thread has broken, because in essence what we're doing is basically releasing a lot of the tension off of the thread, so the machine thinks that because there's no tension on it that a thread has broken. The second color is up to you. This is an option. Color number 2, I changed my material thickness to 15. This is what I use for the outline. Some people prefer a standard satin stitch. Some people prefer to have more of that chenille look in their satin. Starting at 15, I would play with that. Maybe take it to 20, if you want something a little bit bushier, but play with these settings to figure out what it is best for you in order to get the look that you're trying to achieve. Again, these are the settings that I would normally use, and I can change them on the fly if I need to, but this is my starting point right here. A material thickness of 15, a sewing speed of 900, because this is actually a satin stitch, this is not a fill. Again, the active feed has been set to standard, and this time I only have the bobbin detection off because we're still at 15, you have a pretty good chance that the machine will keep up with it, and it's not going to give you too many problems with, thread detection. If it does, you can turn it off. But again, material thickness 15, a sewing speed of about 900, active feed is set to standard, and turn off your bobbin detection. Now, what this does is when you hit apply, it will actually save these settings into the actual Amaya, or into the actual file that can be loaded into the Amaya OS. So rather than having to change this every time that you want to change your design, you can actually go in and load your Amaya OS and then have it load the defaults automatically. Myself personally, I like to change the settings manually each time. The reason being is I'm the kind of person that likes to do things over and over again, because the more I do it, the more I learn it, and the more I understand it, and the less likely I'm going to forget how to do it later down the road. Otherwise, it's like set it and forget it. But you don't really ever learn the settings, and then you don't remember the settings. So if you lose the file, or something happens and you're on another person's machine and you're trying to explain it to them, then because you haven't done it enough, you haven't committed it to memory. That's my only reason for doing it that way. But for ease of purposes, you can actually embed that information into the file that you want. Once you save that file, it will be in there and you can load it into the Amaya automatically. And I am going to attempt to show you that in the second part of this video, which will be coming up very shortly. Okay, I will apologize now if the video quality is not as clear, or if I'm not as easily understandable. I'm no longer sitting at my computer. I'm using an external camera, if you can't tell, to record a screen, so I hope that you will be able to use it. As a side note, if anybody is interested, I don't know if you can see this or not very well, but that right there is a little pet project of mine. That is a little teeny tiny computer. It's a little tiny computer. It's actually smaller than a dollar bill, believe it or not. Runs off of 5 volts, and it is controlling my Amaya, and it is controlling the screen that you are currently looking at right there. And this is basically something that I have that I have been trying to do for a while, and basically make my computer a complete stand-alone computer to control the Amaya, so that I can wheel it around and move it around and not have to be tethered to a computer at all. Eventually there will be a 7-inch touchscreen that I will try and mount to the actual Amaya, so it will be a truly stand-alone unit. I've been trying for a while now to get my machine wireless per se, so I don't have to have these long tethered cables all over the place and running across the room and into my computer, and have the freedom to move it around as I so desire. If anybody is interested in this, I will be more than happy to explain what it is and how I am doing this. But this is a full Windows 10 computer with Ethernet, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, the whole 9 yards. So again, if anybody is interested, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to give you whatever information that I can on this. But now, back to the main star of the program, right here. Now, this is actually a touch screen that I have. Well, actually it's a pen-based screen. It's not a touch. It actually has an actual pen, a radio pen. This is what I'm using in the interim. As I was saying before in the first half of this video, if you were to save your settings in the file, then you would come over here. Let's see if I can zoom in here. you would come over here, right to there. And so it looks like a little piece of paper actually. And that's where you would go to actually load the settings. It would load the settings that are stored within the file. And when you do that, what you end up with is settings by color. You'll see that my settings are already loaded into the machine. If you didn't do this, you would, as I said before, you would have to load these settings individually each and every single time you wanted to do this. But if you take a look, there's two colors. Current color number 1 is set for a maximum sewing speed of 700. The active feed has been set to standard. Material feed is at 40. That was something that I was playing with. Again, I strongly recommend that you start out at about 35 right there. And then you can play with those settings from there. And I forgot to turn off the thread detection because I was playing with it earlier, but normally I would have the thread detection and the bobbin detection both turned off for color number 1. So color number 1, maximum speed 700, a material feed of 35, an active feed set to standard, and no thread or bobbin detection. And number 2, the color number 2, maximum sewing speed is 900. My material feed has been set to 15. That's where I would set it to start with. You can move it up if you so desire for a more bushier look. Standard active feed once again. And honestly, I think I would actually try and turn off all of the thread detection and bobbin detection as well on this. Again, just to reduce the chances of you having to sit there and babysit it, it's telling you that a thread has broken. But again, please be aware, you will have to monitor the machine because it will not stop if it encounters a problem. But using these settings right here, along with the file that I have actually showed you as a demonstration, you should be able to achieve a chenille look. What I'm about to do is I'm about ready to set up the computer the Amaya to actually sew. I will record that video. I will not supply any sound with that because my room is very small and I have a feeling that it might overpower the microphone and the camera and cause some distortion if I did do that. But I will show you the sew out process, and then I will show you the final result, and you can see what it was that I achieved using these settings. And then from there you can pretty much play with them yourself and determine what other settings you may want to play with to achieve a different look. So we will be back shortly with the sew out portion of the video.
So here's the final sew out after I was done. I chose a green and a gray color. As you can see, I have a little bit of a fuzziness right here with the actual satin stitch, and I have the chenille fill for the letters. This is how it came out. It actually kind of resembles a kind of like growing grass right now to me in the actual real life, but these are the results that I achieved. All I did was I took 2 pieces of 3-ounce backing and stuck it in my hoop, and I just sewed on top of that, just because I didn't feel like wasting any material on this. But these are the results, and as you can see, they came out fairly decently. Again, your results may vary depending on what settings that you choose, but hopefully this gave you a better understanding of how to do a chenille and what to expect and how to go about actually designing your designs to become a chenille, and what settings to put on your Amaya in order to achieve this look. Again, this is only relevant to Amayas. Most other machines do not have the ability to make the controlled adjustments that the Amaya can do. If you're trying to do this on a Tajima or a Toyota or some other type of embroidery machine that is a commercial machine, I cannot validate whether or not any of these settings will work, or if you have the ability to make those types of changes in your machine. So I hope this was beneficial for you all, and again, if anybody has any questions, I will try my best to answer any and all questions. So happy stitching, and I hope it works for you. So have a nice one, guys. Bye.